Yo, what's going on, everybody, and welcome back to Sucker Free Sports Talk. I am your host, Sam James. This is episode 11 of Sucker Free Sports Talk. Hard to believe we're already here, 11 episodes in. First off, I'd like to thank everybody who's been with me this whole time. It's because of you guys that we're here. Your continued support is greatly appreciated. Thank you for watching these videos. Thank you for commenting, liking, subscribing to my channel. And on today's episode, we will be talking about the Fighting Illini and their football team falling off the map, hitting a new low. I'll give you my top 4 teams that are in the college football playoffs as of now. We'll talk about the Bears dropping another close game, but before we get into all of that, we have to talk about the Chicago Bulls.
This is a Sucker Free Sports Talk production. Bulls Talk.
The Bulls are becoming a huge disappointment to the city of Chicago. They sit below 500 now at 6-9. They're becoming harder and harder to watch. The lack of energy and lack of urgency has been a problem all year, but it has come to a helm these last few weeks. They went from, losing a lot of close games. They're in pretty much every game to getting blown out here these last couple of weeks. They got blown out by the Nuggets. They got blown out on Wednesday night to the New Orleans Pelicans without Zion Williamson. They're losers of 3 in a row. It is really disappointing. The turnovers, the sloppy mistakes, not being coached hard enough, lack of discipline, all these problems are just coming to a helm right now. Your big 3. Stacey King mentions it all the time. Your big 3 is when this team goes. Vucevic, Levine, and DeRozan. Right now, those guys just aren't playing up to par, and the supporting cast isn't playing up to par as well. Zach LaVine, Vooch, they're playing sloppy, turning it over too much, not being tough. One thing I want to say is, when's the last time you ever seen Zach LaVine take over an NBA game? For me, it's been about 2-3 years now. The last time I seen Zach LaVine take over a game. I mean, remember a few years ago he took over a game in Sacramento where he had like 40, 50 points. That was really impressive. But when's the last time you seen that? The missed layups, the stupid turnovers, the one-handed passes, not catching the ball with 2 hands. I mean, what is going on with this team? Pat Williams continues to have confidence issues. Now Ayo Dosunmu, from a great season Ayo had last year, a great rookie season. I don't know what's happened to him. He's not putting up good numbers. He's your starting point guard, but he's not putting up starting point guard numbers. He's not hitting his shot. Billy Donovan isn't putting enough confidence in those guys. You see it on a game-to-game basis. He holds those guys accountable. And Pat Williams and Ayo Dosunmu, if they make a mistake, he'll pull them out. But if Zach LaVine, Nikola Vucevic, DeMar DeRozan, when they do something stupid, Billy Donovan doesn't pull them out. And that's a key to coaching a basketball team. You have to hold each player to the same standard. You can't play favorites just because guys are making more money than other guys. You have to hold each and every player accountable. Otherwise, you're going to keep seeing the same discipline problems. This team has a lack of discipline, a lack of urgency. So disappointing to see. I mean, from last year when they started the season on that hot streak, first place in the East to where they are now, I don't know what has happened. You can't blame it all on Lonzo Ball being out. Something else is going on here. And like I said in the last episode, Billy Donovan has to be thinking about his job security here. This team is playing way too sloppy, and they're not coached hard enough. And certain guys like Vooch, another thing I want to say with Nikola Vucevic, I would tell Vooch, you are not shooting another 3-point shot until you score 4 field goals in a game. Now, some people might say that's not a good thing to do. You don't want to hamper players like that, and I get that. But Nikola Vucevic is getting dominated. 3 games in a row now, he's gotten dominated by Valanciunas twice and Nikola Jokic twice. It is unacceptable. You traded so much to get this guy, and he is not playing hard enough. He's not tough enough. He's not a tough enough center to get it done in the NBA on a night-to-night basis. I think the other night he had 9 points. Last night, Wednesday night, he had like 12, 14 points. That's not good enough. That's not going to cut it. He is an average center at best right now. And the more I watch this team, the more I'm just going to say blow it up. Trade DeMar, trade Vooch, get what you can, and start the rebuild over again. As much as that pains me to say, this team isn't going anywhere as it currently is constructed. The guys on this team are not tough enough. You should have never paid Zach LaVine that max contract. Every media outlet in Chicagoland, every national media outlet was saying you have to pay him, you have to pay him. Why? He's not a star player. He might put up star numbers, but he's not Jimmy Butler. He's not one of these tough guys that's going to go out there and win you a playoff series. At this point, this team is a shit show. blow this team up. It's pathetic on all levels. I'm sick of watching it, even though I will continue to watch it.
I hate this fucking shit.
With that, the Bulls move on to play a bad Magic team this Friday. Finally, they get a bad team. But at the same time, I'm not that confident that the Bulls win this game. You saw Pat Williams get hurt the other night. As much as he struggled offensively, he has been playing really good defensively. He'd be guarding Paolo Banchero. You don't have him this Friday. I don't know about this Bulls team. I think they might lose to the Magic. We'll see what happens. Does it matter? I don't know. We'll see what happens. If they lose this game, Billy Donovan could be looking for a new job. All right, that's Bulls talk. Let's segue into some Bears. The Bears lose another close game to the Lions, 31-30. I don't want to spend too much time on this because it's pretty much a repeat of last week's loss to the Miami Dolphins. Bears run the ball for over 200 yards again. I mean, what is this now? 6 games in a row that the Bears have ran for over 200 yards. That's impressive. That's good to see. Something, after those first few games where the Bears were really struggling offensively, something clicked with Matt Eberflus and Luke Getsy where they said something has to change here. Let's make the adjustments, the same adjustments that the last regime and Matt Nagy would not make, the Bears have made. That's been good to see offensively. 29 points in 3 straight weeks. But they lose all 3 of those games. That's an NFL record. No team has scored more than 29 points in 3 straight weeks and lost all of those games. Justin Fields had another solid game. Running the ball, he had 147 yards rushing, 2 TDs. He is quickly turning into one of, if not the best running quarterback in all of the NFL. And this is an NFL that has Lamar Jackson in it as well. But you see it. When Justin gets to that second level, when he gets in the open field, he makes guys miss and he takes it to the house. His speed, I mean, I don't know. I'd like to see a foot race between him and Lamar Jackson. Leave a comment down below who would win in a foot race, Lamar Jackson or Justin Fields. I don't know. I think it might be Justin Fields. I mean, he's hit the 21 mile per hour mark these last few weeks. Really impressive to see from Justin Fields. Haven't had a quarterback in Chicago that can run the ball like this ever. He had another TD run of over 60 yards. That was fun to watch. Really good to see. Passing game was pretty good. He threw a couple touchdowns there to Kmet. He hit Mooney over the middle. Mooney had a pretty good game. Cole Kmet had another big game. He's had those 5 touchdowns the last 3 weeks. Really good to see from Cole Kmet. But then at the end, the Bears had that 2-touchdown lead. Got down to 1 touchdown, and then Justin Fields threw that bad pick 6 in his own territory. I'm not going to crucify the guy for that. He was trying to make a play there. You kind of felt like the momentum was shifting. Fields tried to make a play. It ended up biting him in the ass, and Detroit got a touchdown. And then the end of the game was pretty disappointing. Bears had the ball. They were down 1. They had a chance to do the 2-minute drill and push the ball downfield. But you see when they kind of get in these situations where they have to push the ball downfield and they can't rely on the run, that's kind of when they struggle. And, Fields kind of he held the ball too long, in my opinion. That last play, it's 4th and 8. You need a first down. Fields was doing his thing in the backfield, running all over the place, breaking tackles. But at some point, you got to release the ball. You cannot take a sack on 4th and 8 when you're down 1. That's unacceptable. They got to let them know, hey, you got to take a chance there. You got to take a couple chances over the middle. There was the one play where Cole Kmet kind of bumped knees with the guy, and that threw everything off. But at the same time, you got to get rid of the ball. You got to try to make some plays through the air there at the end of the game. And for all the hype around Justin, and I get it, I really have enjoyed watching this guy the last few weeks, but for all the hype, he's still not there as a pocket passer, and you could see it there at the end of the game. And then the Bears' D continues to struggle. Worst defense I've seen in a while. I mean, they did have some pretty bad ones there in the Mark Trestman era. I think we remember some of those games against the Packers and Patriots where they were giving up 50 points pretty easily to those teams. But at the same time, a subpar passing game led by Jared Goff tore apart that Bears secondary all game. Nobody was making plays. Jalen Johnson had a bad game. Kyler Gordon, bad game. Nobody was making any plays. No pass rush to be seen anywhere. When the season started, I said one of the strong suits for this team I thought was going to be the pass rush. Even with Robert Quinn gone, you still got Dominique Robinson, Travis Gibson. I thought these guys would step up a little bit, but no, non-existent. No pass rush whatsoever. Guys are just sitting back in that pocket and picking apart this Bears secondary. They did draw up a few more blitzes. That was one of my criticisms of Alan Williams and the defensive coordinators of the Bears last week was they didn't draw up enough safety and linebacker blitzes. They did drop some of those blitzes, but they didn't get home. They didn't get the job done. And with that, let's look at some Bears season in retrospect. The Bears season so far has been a disappointment in my opinion. 3-7 looks like a lost season. This was a pretty weak schedule in a pretty weak NFC this year. If they could have put everything together, if the drafts could have went better under Ryan Pace, if they had more talent around Justin Fields, especially on defense, this team could have went somewhere this year. First year in a while, Packers are bad. Nobody else is really good in the NFC. You got the Vikings, you got the Eagles. But even those teams, I mean, the Bears could have beat the Vikings 3 or 4 weeks ago. They should have won that game, frankly. And to me, it feels like a lost year. Yeah, everybody wants to say Justin Fields development, and I get that, but there is no development in losing. Losing is never good. Like I always say, and like Herm Edwards said, you play to win the game.
Hello?
But there is some positive. Justin Fields has shown some improvement from last year. He is a better passer than last year. And then Luke Getsy getting this running game going. I think you found something here with this offensive coordinator. His willingness to make the changes, to make the in-game and in-season adjustments have been really good to see from Luke Getsy. And Matt Eberflus has been a part of that as well. Some other positive, Bears have picked up some draft capital, and they are going to need it. I would put every single draft pick towards a defensive player, maybe a wide receiver or an offensive lineman in there, but they are going to need some talent on defense. You hear about it, they have the most free agency cap space. You've seen some of these teams in the past when they try putting that money towards free agency. It doesn't really work out in the end. You have to build through the draft. So Bears have picked up some draft capital. They're going to need it defensively. All right, let's do some studs and duds. We haven't done studs and duds in a while. Studs and duds from Week 10 against the Lions. Studs number 1, I'm going with Jack Sanborn, the rookie undrafted linebacker out of Wisconsin. Had a monster game. 2 sacks, 12 total tackles, and then that interception that got called back, that was frustrating to see. They called hands to the face on Jalen Johnson. Wasn't even close. Penalties all day killed the Bears, but at the same time, Jack Sanborn had a great game. He is my number 1 stud of the week. Number 2, you got to go with Cole Kmet. Like I said, 2 touchdowns, 5 over his last 3 games, 4 receptions for 74 yards. Cole has really stepped it up here and become one of the top tight ends in the league. Let's get into some duds here. My first dud is Jalen Johnson. Jalen didn't play well. Looks like he was getting beat all game. Big play in the third quarter there. I think it was actually the fourth quarter. He got beat over the middle there by that wide receiver. I can't think of his name right now, the white guy. That was pretty bad. He was getting beat all game, missing tackles. And then, after the game, I was listening to him on the score. He was trying to blame everything on a quad injury or a hip injury or something like that. And pretty much saying he didn't want to talk about it. He didn't want to talk about how he had a bad game. He was avoiding the media all week. Dude, you had one bad game in your career. You got to face the music. You got to come out and acknowledge it. Injuries are not an excuse. You lined up on defense out there. You're playing. You need to be held accountable. You did not play well, Jalen. My second dud of the week, Cairo Santos. I don't know what was going on with Cairo. I don't know if he was taking shots at halftime. I don't know what the hell was going on. That one kickoff, he kicked it right out of bounds. Don't know what that was. And then he missed that crucial extra point, which cost the Bears a chance at overtime. Lions ended up winning 31-30. Yeah, I guess it was a bad snap, bad hold, but at the same time, you got to put that through Cairo. But he's had a pretty good career here as a Bear, so we're not going to hold him to the fire on that one. Bears move on to play the Atlanta Falcons this Sunday at noon in Atlanta. Atlanta is coming off a bad loss last Thursday to the Carolina Panthers. That was one of the worst games I've ever seen out of a quarterback. Marcus Mariota, I don't know what he was doing out there, throwing the ball over the place, being careless. Played extremely loose with the ball. If he starts off this game playing like that, look for Atlanta to move to the rookie quarterback Desmond Ridder. I'm surprised they haven't moved to him already. But at the same time, this is a weak Bears secondary, a weak Bears pass rush, so he should be able to have a better game than he did against the Carolina Panthers team, who is also depleted. Look out for Cordero Patterson this week. I love Cordero. He was one of my favorite players here with the Bears. Matt Nagy did not know how to utilize him. Atlanta utilizes him. He had a slow week last week, but he was coming off of IR. Look for him to get back on track and hurt the Bears here. Bears going to have to keep a spy on him, keep a linebacker on him at all times. Atlanta is 3-point favorites in this game, and my predictions for this game are the Bears lose 31-20. to 23. I hate to say it, but I have no faith in this Bears defense right now. Like I said, one of the worst defenses, no talent, no pass rush, secondary sucks. Linebackers, besides Sanborn, are not very talented, do not have a lot of experience. I don't know if the Bears win another game this season with how bad this defense is playing, but we'll see. Right now I have the Bears losing 31-23. All right, let's do a poll question here. This has been some of the worst moments in Chicago sports history, in my opinion. These last 2 weekends have been the Chicago sports weekend from hell. I think that might be the title of the show here. Sports weekend from hell. That was bad. That was terrible these last few weekends. Bears, Bulls, Blackhawks. I don't know what's going on here. So my poll question is this. Is this the worst state of Chicago sports in the last 20 years? You look back, you had the Bears Mark Trestman era. That was kind of the Bulls end of the D. Rose era where he was injured most of those seasons. I mean, the Bulls were still in the playoffs those years. I don't think the Bulls are making the playoffs this year, so I think that was probably a better era than now. You had the John Fox era with the Bears. That was kind of the Bulls' Jimmy Butler era when he kind of took over the reins of the team. I think that was a better era. You also had the Cubs winning the World Series back then in 2016. I mean, you look back to like 2005, Bears making it to the Super Bowl. Bulls had some pretty good teams there in the years following, 2009 to 2015. So, to me, this is the worst state of Chicago sports in my lifetime. Like I said, Bulls, Bears, Blackhawks, Cubs, Sox. Every team is inept of talent. Every team sucks pretty much. So let me know in the comments. Is this the worst state of Chicago sports over the last 20 years? All right, let's talk about the Illini. Illinois football has fallen to a new low as well. They're still in first place in the Big Ten West, but we'll see how long that lasts. Lost that game to Purdue. Really disappointing. That was a big game for them. They needed that game. Penalties all day long. Killed Illinois. I mean, every time they made a big play, big interception, they would call pass interference. Really frustrating. Again, yelling at the TV all day long, watching that stuff. These last 2 weeks, I don't know what's happened. Maybe they let the fame, maybe they let the notoriety get to their head a little bit. They were getting that national media attention. Brett Bielema was on that Joel Klatt show. If you're looking for a good college football YouTube show to watch, check out Joe Klatt. He does a really good job talking college football. But anyways, Illinois was getting some national notoriety there, and then they disappoint. I think they let it get to their head a little bit. This defense has fallen off from being one of the number one scoring defense in all of the nation. They're not even in the top 5 anymore after 2 bad weeks against Michigan State and Purdue. 2 teams that aren't very good in my opinion. I mean, I talked about it at the start of the year about this team maybe falling into what they were in the past where they win the first few games and then kind of fall back down to earth and start losing in the Big Ten. It looked different this year. You had wins against Wisconsin, wins against Iowa. That stuff hasn't happened in 20 years. And you think they're good. You think they're riding hot on a track to the Big Ten title game. And now these last 2 weeks, completely dropped the ball. Really disappointing to see. They move on to this Saturday. They'll take on Michigan, the Michigan Wolverines, the number 3 ranked Michigan Wolverines. It could get ugly here. Michigan will pound them in the run game. They actually do have a better run game than Illinois now. We'll see what happens. Illinois kind of needs this game to stay on track in the Big Ten West and stay in first. They do have Northwestern next week, but Purdue has some pretty easy games here too. So if Purdue wins 2 and Illinois loses one of these next 2 games, then Purdue wins the Big Ten West. So Illinois is going to have to find something here in Ann Arbor this Saturday. All right, let's look at the college football playoff as it currently stands. Your number 1 team is Georgia, number 2 Ohio State, 3 Michigan, and 4 TCU. I don't really have a problem with any of this. These teams are all undefeated, the only undefeated teams in the nation, really. TCU, watch out for that team. Max Duggan, quarterback there. Against all odds, this team has been playing good all year against some good teams in the Big 12. TCU has been playing really good, flying under the radar. That's a fun team to watch if you haven't watched them. Max Duggan, a good dual-threat quarterback. And the other teams on the outside looking in are Tennessee, LSU, and USC. LSU at number 7 and LSU at number 6, and USC at number 7. we'll see what happens here. One of these teams, Ohio State or Michigan, are going to lose because they play each other. I still think they stay in the top 4. However, anything can happen here. You've seen it the last few years in college football. Anything can happen these last 2 weeks of the season. Another surprise is Alabama and Clemson falling out of the top 7 altogether. These are your 2 dominant teams the last, 8-9 years or so. Alabama especially, you never see them out of the top 5 really. Been a disappointing year for them. They lost to LSU last week. But still, do not give up on these teams. It's still possible for them to make the playoffs. Like I said, anything can happen these last 2 weeks of the season. All right, let me give a little side note here in college football. After a terrible start to the season, Notre Dame. I was giving Notre Dame a lot of grief. They were struggling. They lost some really bad games to some poor teams, Appalachian State. They have turned it around here. They beat Clemson a couple weeks ago. They're number 18 in the nation. That head coach, Marcus Freeman, some people were calling for his job at the start of the year after a terrible start. He has really turned that program around. Really good to see from him. Good to see from Notre Dame to get back on track and get back up there in the national rankings at number 18 right now. All right, let's talk about some Illinois basketball, college basketball starting. I love watching college basketball, any basketball really. Basketball is a great sport to watch on TV. It's so fun to watch, especially college basketball. The intensity, the crowds, how they get into it. It's really good to see. I like Illinois. Illinois has a lot of depth this year after losing a lot of guys from Trent Frazier, Alonzo Plummer, Kofi Coburn, DeMonte Williams. They lost a lot from that Big Ten championship team, but they've added a lot of pieces this offseason. Do not sleep on this Illinois team. They're ranked 23 right now, and some pieces they've added are point guard Sky Clark. He was a high recruit, top 25 guy in the nation. This guy's really good. I actually like this guy's game a lot. Backup guard Jaden Epps. He's another freshman. He looks pretty good. And then transfer Dane Danger out of Baylor. He was on the team last year, but he was just a practice guy. So far against some of these exhibition teams, some of these lower level teams, he's played really well. Big body, can handle the ball. Doesn't really shoot it too much, but he's a big guy who can get in there and mix things up on the inside. Really good to see from Dane Danger. Another transfer, Terrence Shannon out of Texas Tech. He's had a good few years these last years. And he's, in the first few games here, he looks to be Illinois' best player. Watch for him being an all Big Ten guy. I think he had 28 points the other night. Another transfer from Baylor, Matthew Meyer. He is good. Kind of soft at times, but he is still a good player. I like Matt Meyer. Coleman Hawkins is a guy who's returning. R.J. Melendez, Luke Goody, these guys are all returning. Illinois is going to look to compete again for a Big Ten title this year. Watch out for those teams, competitive Big Ten, Michigan, Ohio State, Michigan State, but look for Illinois to compete. All right, let's get into my picks of the week. Went 2-1 last week. I think 2-1 these last 2 weeks are starting to turn it around here a little bit. Was right about the Giants, and the Colts ended up rallying around Jeff Saturday to beat the Raiders. That was a surprise. I picked the Colts in that game. My first game this week, however, is the Carolina Panthers -13 versus the Baltimore Ravens. Carolina has been playing hard after trading some of their top players. They've been a little bit surprised here. They beat Atlanta last week, like I said. I like Carolina -13 against Baltimore. My second game of the week is the New York Football Giants -3 against the Lions in New York. Giants are 7-2 against the spread this year. That is also their record. I think they're a far better team than the Lions. I don't know what Vegas has been doing with the Giants. They've been putting them as underdogs all week, even though they're 3-point favorites this week. They are a far better team than the Lions. They will dominate this game. They will cover the spread again. And then my final game is the Rams +3 in New Orleans. Don't really get this spread. I know Cooper Kupp is out. He's LA's best player, but still, I don't trust New Orleans. I don't trust Andy Dalton. I think the Rams cover the spread and win this game. Pick the Rams money line to beat the New Orleans Saints. As always, guys, thank you for watching the show. It is greatly appreciated. Make sure to like, comment, and subscribe to my channel. Let me know where I was right, where I was wrong, where you agree, where you disagree. And remember, if you're going to talk sports, always keep it sucker-free.